From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
You love me.
If you've got a tip for Melissa, a weird change in your coworker's behavior, the package you saw being delivered at midnight to the house of that neighbor no one ever sees, how the hell to get out of San Jose, anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. And now here's your host, changing the face of true crime podcasts without using any surgical instruments, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. I think it's important to start more conservatively and just go with the fillers, just injectables, maybe a little chemical peel.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah, you don't go directly to like surgery,
like scalpels.
Yeah.
You
don't do that. You don't do that.
Okay. Good.
I have never wanted to know how to get to San Jose, and almost always wanted to know how to get out, but I'm not very good with directions. It's a fine little burg. It's lovely.
Yes.
It's beautiful. That's where the Winchester Mystery Mansion is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, there's some, there's things to do and see there.
There is. There are. But, no. Now we're going to alienate everybody in Silicon
San Jose.
Valley.
They're wonderful. It's a great place. We have friends who live there. It's all good.
I graduated from high school there.
From San Jose?
Well,
it was Cupertino or something.
San Jose metro area.
Oh, I see. Part of the metro.
Yes,
gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, we have a friend who not exactly from that area. Where would Sandy be from?
Oh yeah, she was from that area.
She made us some masks, and she just, I'm going to say this, and now I'll just sound cheesy, but she knocked it out of the ballpark. She made baseball masks for producer Mark. She made crime scene masks for me, which is perfection, because I'm quite sure a lot of people think my mouth is a crime scene. So having my mouth covered by a crime scene mask
I don't know if that
is poetic.
They're beautiful masks.
They're great. And she made me some unicorn masks. So big shout out to Tipster Sandy, who
Thank you.
from the San Jose-ish area.
Yes. Originally.
Originally.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that if you have an email you'd love to send us, please feel free to send it to jttipsters@gmail.com. You can call us. Our Tipster hotline is always open at 832-847-7837. We would be delighted if you would rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. That's pretty much where everyone gets the information, whether you have an iPhone or if you use Apple. You can, Apple products, you can rate and review on any platform that you listen to the podcast. Unfortunately, a lot of times we don't know where they are, where to find them, and a lot of places don't offer you that opportunity. So if you could rate and review on Apple, we would be delighted, because it's tough out there. It's hard out here for a pimp, and it's easier for people to find us if there are reviews. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the good ones. And we got one this week that I adore from JJ Nix, who said, "I love crime stories, and especially when they get solved." Me too, JJ. I did not ever want to do an open unsolved case, and I didn't for the first year that we did the podcast. I only wanted the ones that had been solved because I like everything tied up in a nice neat bow. But there was so much call for cases that were not solved to be covered, and we started doing that. And it was going to be once a month. If you are a long-time listener to the podcast, you remember me saying, we're going to do one unsolved case a month. That did not last long. Sometimes the cases we cover are closed, and I will be honest, I sleep a lot better at night when we do that. But it's just been overwhelming, the number of people that have asked us to cover cases that are not closed or solved, or a missing persons case. And we do get a lot of satisfaction covering those cases, because those cases need to be covered. But they're hard on me. I'm not complaining. It's a beautiful gift that I get to do this, and that producer Mark makes everything sound so much better than it ever could if I just did it by myself. But it's difficult. I'm a overly sensitive, thin-skinned squish monster, and I spend a lot of time up at night thinking about these cases, which, I just have to be better at drawing boundaries. I mean, it's a little late
I don't
now.
know if
but
that's going to happen. I wish you would too, because she really does.
He wants me to shut up.
Toss and turn all night.
A lot of times I'm sitting up. If producer Mark happens to get up to go to the bathroom, he's like, "What are you doing now?" And I'm looking on my iPad like, "I'm just trying to solve did Lee Harvey Oswald really kill JFK?" And I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that.
No, it's only a slight exaggeration.
Slightly.
But no, I don't want you to shut up. I want you to sleep.
Yeah, sleeping is good.
I want you to be able to sleep because you worry too much.
Sleeping is good. But here, back to JJ Nix and the lovely review. I'm going to say she. She says, "Thank you for your diligence in wanting to help people. I love how passionate and emotional you are. You're a great storyteller, and I enjoy the conversations and banter between you and producer Mark. Please keep up the good work." And saying I'm a good storyteller is just like the nicest thing anyone could ever say. I'm very prickly about semantics, about certain words, like when people call podcast hosts creators. And I'm like, we're not fucking creating the wheel. We're talking about the wheel. And I got to get over that, because it's, there are absolutely, over 1.2 million podcasts available. And there are probably a lot of creators and a lot of really good storytellers. And they are, potentially recreating the wheel. I feel like true crime is not, we're not creators, but to be a good storyteller is pretty important in my mind. And the other thing that keeps me going forward is I'm not like a big fan of a lot of things about me. I spend a lot of time picking myself apart. But one of the only things I like about myself is my voice. Now, you can love it or hate it. And there are days where I don't love it either, like when I'm having, allergy issues and postnasal drip. And I get that. You don't have, that's why there's 31 flavors. Go find, vanilla if you don't like Rocky Road. There's lots of voices that are available. But to me, a podcast just completely revolves around a good storyteller with a good voice. If you have the ability to tell a story and you have a good voice, that's pretty much all you need to be a good podcast host in my mind. And I never thought of myself as a good storyteller. I struggle mightily with making sure that the details and information about someone's case, especially something that is unsolved or someone who is missing, those details are important to me that I get right. So that's the thing I would say that I'm, good at as far as a storyteller. And I do like my voice. It's one of the only things like I said, that I like about myself. So that's the way that goes. So thank you, JJ Nix, for your lovely review. Really, really incredibly sweet of you. And if you are a listener and want to leave us a review or a rating, we'd be very delighted. And before we talk about this week's case, I do have to mention my beloved All the Isle of Shame community on Facebook. I purchased quite a few Halloween decorations from.
We're going to have a busy day tomorrow.
Yeah,
decorating the lawn.
Yeah, I pretty much bought everything they had as far as Halloween stuff, and it's kind of it's bittersweet because we are kind of the Halloween-aholics here in our neighborhood. We live in a cul-de-sac, and we get anywhere from 1,200 to 1,600 little monsters, every year. And it's just,
she's not exaggerating.
I'm not. No, it's, if anyone, wants to see this, we have neighbors who are very AV oriented. We have a neighbor who set up 2 different GoPro cameras, one on top of a car in her driveway and one on a light pole, and did, shots back and forth. And she edited 3 hours of trick-or-treating down to 3 minutes. And she's done it about 3 years in a row. And you can find it for free on YouTube. It's under like Cul-de-sac Halloween or Halloween Cul-de-sac. And she sets them to music. One year it was like Werewolves of London. One year it was like the theme from Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm sorry, Nightmare Before Halloween. I think, or is it Nightmare Before Christmas?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's
yeah,
it. Sorry. Yeah, but she, adds music behind it. She does an amazing job, and she, edits down, like I said, 3 hours to 3 minutes, and you'll see these kids come at us from both directions because we're in the cul-de-sac, and it's very much like a zombie attack. It's just, it's a lot of work.
1,500.
Yeah, and we're not like, hey, here's your tiny piece of bit of honey. We, stuff treat bags with toys and chocolate, and we call them secondary candy, which is typically like
she does it like a military
Skittles.
operation.
I do.
Get the primary candy over here and put the secondary candy in this. Yeah, each bag has 4 different things in it, and she stuffs 1,500 every year.
I have help. Typically, our pet sitter Lisa and our wonderful pet groomer Emily. Sometimes producer Mark, but I do a lot of it myself because it usually brings me joy. But this year, a little weird pandemic, state of California closed down to a fairly well, not really gonna, it's gonna be a little different this year. So
I think we're just gonna hand out the individual bit of honeys this year.
I will never do that.
No.
I will never do that. It will be something better than that, I promise.
No, we'll have good candy, but I don't think we're gonna do the bags because that's just.
I don't know that I got it in me.
We don't even know how many people are gonna.
That's right.
Gonna be in, doing it.
Right. So anyway, back to Aldi. The Aldi Isle of Shame had some phenomenal blow-ups. All I wanted was the bat. So I got the bat, but then I got a spider and a cat, and which I'm really scared because someone posted just a few hours ago on the Aldi Isle of Shame community Facebook page. Did anyone else get the ghost beware lights? Mine says beware. B-A-W-A-R-E.
It's like beware because
no, it's baware. B-A-W-A-R-E. Baware.
Oh, B-A.
Yeah, baware. Beware. There's a little ghost. There's a ghosty. Beware.
Yeah, okay.
And then other people start posting, and I'm trying not to shit in my pants. I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing a skirt. But someone else said, this is what I got. And there says reware. R-E-W-A-R-E.
What the hell?
Baware and reware. And I don't know what the fuck is happening, Aldi. And then some other person posted, well, those are going to go well with the 6-legged inflatable spiders. So I'm a little worried. Like I'm going to pull my bat out, and he's got one wing.
There's going to be a bunch of little mutant
blow-ups. Things. Yeah,
they're little ones. They're little. They're
4 feet. Yeah, they're 4 feet.
Yeah. So we've got we've got a couple of big, giant.
Like 8 feet.
A dragon and a big giant spider that scares.
His head moves.
Scares kids. Scares the dogs.
Yeah, nobody's going to be scared of a 6-legged spider and baware. Here's some ghosts, and right in the middle is the word reware.
That's right.
Does that mean you buy your clothes at Goodwill? You rewear them?
Oh my God.
I know, it's terrible. I'm a terrible person. So on to this week's episode, which is a little bit of a continuation of last week. So we know that Sneha Philip has never been, found, and after 9/11, and this is the one that I mentioned last week that actually held a lot of intrigue for me. And it's, I hate to sound like I'd already made up my mind, because I like to think of myself as someone who listens to all of the information, all of the evidence, and then makes a decision. But it was tough to not think what I think a lot of people thought, which is it's the spouse. So on September 11th, beautiful Michele Harris, mother of 4 and estranged wife of Calvin Harris, is at her beautiful home in Owego, New York. I guess it's sort of upstate New York.
Or Oswego?
No.
It's Owego?
Owego, O-W-E-G-O.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I guess the town is called Dickinson. It's a small town, and I'm going to say upstate New York.
Yeah.
So now, is there a way that you can make your spouse go missing during a giant national event? Yeah. it can happen. And that is one of those things that there's probably a podcast that covers that. I know there's that this case has been covered by a couple of other podcasts. And quite frankly, the place that I found the most information years ago was a 48 Hours episode called A Time to Kill. And yeah, it seems like a time to kill would be during a giant national emergency. I'm reminded of, Hurricane Katrina and the number of people that went missing in New Orleans, and not all of them were missing because a dam broke. Some of them are missing because someone did something terrible to them. One case, it's like I can't stop myself from talking about a case that I'm not talking about right now. One case was a woman who was found in a trunk or in a piece of luggage, like floating down the street. And she didn't get in there and close herself in. Anyway, that's another story. Michele Harris's case is interesting for a lot of reasons for me. Mostly the interest is because her husband is infinitely unlikable. It's a difficult thing when, public perception is important. And if you are accused of something terrible, you should have someone who can maybe help you appear not so shitty. It's a very interesting thing that people write love letters to Chris Watts in prison, who killed his, wife, unborn son, and 2 daughters, because he has this open, likable face. It's interesting to me that Scott Peterson was convicted on pretty thin circumstantial evidence, really. And let's just call it what it is. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm saying it was pretty thin evidence because he's so unlikable, because he proved himself to be a liar, lied to that poor Amber Fry, who he was quote unquote dating while he was still married, and called her, from a candlelight vigil on his missing pregnant wife and telling her he was spending New Year's Eve in Paris. So
that was one of my favorite parts of that story.
It's interesting.
Those are some big huevos right there.
Yeah, pretty big. Wait, are huevos eggs?
Yes.
What's the word for testicles?
Well, that's also slang for testicles.
Oh, okay,
too.
Sorry. I was like, I don't care what kind of eggs Scott Peterson has. Sorry. I'm barely fluent in English, barely, so don't pull out different things for me. So Calvin Harris is a bit of a dick. And sorry, I'm just going to say it. And he meets, he's from a rich family, and they own a fleet of car dealerships. And the beautiful Michele starts working at the car dealership. And he had been married and was divorced and was, like a bachelor about town, and meets her. And he thinks it's just going to be, they're kind of going to just be fuck buddies. But they, kind of fall in love. And he says she's like the most beautiful girl I'd ever met. And she is really gorgeous, and not just like in a classic way. She's gorgeous because her face is so open. Her spirit looks like it comes through her smile and her eyes. She just looks like she's just open, like an open book. And she meets Cal, they get married, and within 6 years, they have 4 kids. They have 2 sons and 2 daughters. And apparently Michele just really wanted to be a mom. She had this degree in business administration, and she was working at the office of all of the car dealerships, the family-owned car dealerships. And, Cal buys this large piece of property, has this beautiful house built in Owego, and they live there. And it's just not really going great. They, I guess it was December of 2000, Michele is like, you know what? I'm done with this. I want out. Now, both of their divorce attorneys suggest that they stay together in the home, even though it's a legal separation in separate parts of the house, because if one of them leaves, it will look as if they are abandoning the kids. So both of them get advice from their attorneys, stay in the house.
Oh, that sounds like a recipe for just a ton of fun.
Doesn't it? They work it out, quote unquote, to the best of their abilities. And it's because there's a lot of money involved. it's taking time to get through a divorce in the state of New York. Now, Cal is ordered, it hasn't gone through yet though. He's supposed to take care of, the mortgage and the bills and feeding the kids. Michele gets $400 a week, and she is not, it's not a lot of money, and she is running out of money. So she gets a job at a place called Lefty's. That's a little diner in town, and she gets a job as a server, and she's quite beautiful. So it's not like a big, she could probably make a pretty good living. I mean, not like, she's not going to become rich, but she's making some money. But more importantly, I think after being married to Cal, finding out that he was again having an affair with someone who worked at the car lots where he had met her, she's like, that's it. I'm done. I want this divorce to be finalized, and let's, move on. And it was getting closer. It's been like, 9-10 months or something. It was December of 2000, I think, when she filed. So they're getting closer. She's only getting $400 a week at this time. But
and just to be clear, that's because the divorce hadn't been finalized
exactly.
yet? So that's a temporary situation.
Yes.
The court ordered $400 pending the divorce, the final divorce.
Exactly.
Okay.
What hasn't been finalized is that the judge had ordered Cal to pay Michele $80,000 a year and a lump sum of $740,000.
Okay.
That's still on the table. And Michele had rejected that offer because Cal is worth about $5.5 million.
Oh, okay.
And Michele asked that the assets be appraised. She wants the car lots to be appraised, all of his property to be appraised, and I think she wants like an even split. However, the appraisal is going to cost $30,000, and Calvin is like, nope, not happening. Not happening. So in June, the latest update to the divorce proceedings was that Michele had custody of the kids, even though they were both living in the house at the same time. She was just getting $400 a week, and she's working at this, diner, and she's also kind of living it up a little bit. I mean, she's, they're separated. They're legally separated. They just happen to be living in the same house because, she wants to not walk away so that it seems like she's abandoning her kids. So she's staying there. They live in, two different parts of the house. The house is big. There's the 4 kids. They're just, they're trying to get through this, and it's getting closer. It's getting closer. But her inability to accept the offer on the table is kind of a big deal, and Cal doesn't take it very well at all. Now, she had a meeting on September 12th scheduled with her divorce attorney in New York City. Cal says he didn't know that. Cal says that she told him she would be going to the city to sell some jewelry. Now, would you go to New York City on September 12th?
I think the answer is obvious.
Yeah. You couldn't get there. I mean, you couldn't get in to the city, right?
You could not get in.
Right. So let's go back to September 11th. Obviously, the country is focused on any sort of media where they can find what's happening. She spent the day with Cal at home and the kids. And then she heads out that evening to go to work at the diner. And she had a couple of, paramours that she had met while working. She was exploring her singlehood. She's 35 years old. She's been married for, a while to Cal. It wasn't going well. They've been separated for quite some time. She's calling this like a fresh start at this job at Lefty's. She was like, I'm going to work here. I'm going to, take care of my kids. I'm going to be a single mom, but I'm going to have support from my family. Cal's family, she was a little bit afraid of them because they were a pretty powerful family in the area. So she had this idea that she was going to sell some pretty big stuff, like her Rolex watch, her 2-carat diamond engagement ring. And she kind of felt like she had to do this at the time. Those things apparently weren't going to mean a lot to her, especially in the divorce. And she was kind of running up some bills because she only had $400 a week to pay for bills. And she had like $16,000 in credit card debt. And she still owed the babysitter, Barbara Thayer, $1,000. Now, why she is tasked with paying for the babysitter/nanny, I don't know, because Cal had, been tasked with paying for almost all of the things in the home, except her $400 was like her running around money. And then her job at Lefty's, would have given her extra money that, and she was trying to bank what she could, sell what she could, so that she could have enough money when this divorce becomes final to take care of the kids. So she, spends the day, September 11th, with her family. She works that night at Lefty's, and she left at 9:30 p.m. She has these 2 boyfriends. I hate to say this. It makes her sound like she has 2 boyfriends.
Nobody's going to care about that.
Well,
come on.
Yes and no. One of them was sort of a boyfriend, and one of them was a secret. Both of them she had actually met at Lefty's. So the first one is Michael Casper. She's dating Michael Casper, and that's kind of a public knowledge thing. She met him at Lefty's. They had drinks with Michael Casper's friend, Michael Hakes. And then she leaves them and goes to see her kind of secret boyfriend, Brian Early. Now, he's younger than her, and he is apparently smitten to the point of thinking that once she divorces Cal, they're going to get married. And I don't know that that was what she had in mind. It sounds like he may have been a lovely fill-in.
Yeah.
Right. So she stops by his apartment, Brian Early's apartment, and he tells police that she left between 11 and 11:30 p.m. Now, she doesn't make it home, or her car makes it home. So September 12th, Cal Harris wakes up and Michele is not at the house, and he needs help with the 4 kids. He has to go to work. So he calls their babysitter, Barbara Thayer, and says, "Could you come over here and help with the kids? I don't know where Michele is. She stayed out all night." Barbara Thayer shows up, and Michelle's 2000 Ford Windstar minivan with New York dealer plates, because apparently she got it from Cal and his lot, is sitting at the end of their driveway, abandoned. The thing is, this property is very large with a large driveway, and it makes sense that maybe Cal didn't see it, down at the end of the driveway.
Right.
And maybe you wouldn't see it until you were driving in, i.e. Barbara Thayer, the babysitter. So Barbara Thayer drives in and she's like, "Hey, Michelle's minivan's at the end of the driveway." So they go look. Keys are in the ignition. There's some jewelry in the minivan. There's an empty Rolex watch box. So her, the box for the Rolex is there, but the Rolex is not there. It's kind of an odd situation. And then Cal Harris does nothing to do himself any favors. Nothing. I mean...
Just to be clear, this is the morning of September 12th.
Yes.
Okay. Where did she... And he's saying that she told him she was going to go into the city that day?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
That was his excuse to the police when they were like, "Why didn't you report your wife missing?"
Oh, after they discovered the car and the police show up, that's when he said that. Okay.
So Barbara reports her missing. Barbara, the housekeeper slash babysitter slash nanny. And like I said, the keys are still in the ignition. No other indication of foul play. No one can explain where she is. It's just sitting at the end of the driveway. She obviously didn't go to New York to sell. It's like some people said, well, it looks like she just got out of her car and somebody else picked her up and took her. Well, she's kind of like blocking the driveway. The minivan's like blocking the driveway. She wouldn't just like, oh, somebody picked me up. A friend picked me up and took me into the city. I'm just going to leave my car here.
Oh, right. Come on.
Right. I'm telling you, Cal is one of those guys, for better or worse, whatever happened to Michele, he does himself no favors. No favors.
Not if he's saying shit like that.
Well, he just doesn't seem very interested in his wife's disappearance. Granted, it's not a friendly divorce. It's very acrimonious. He's like, oh, probably one of those guys she's sleeping with killed her. Now, right.
That's the first thing you want to say to the cops.
Right. Nobody knew about Brian Early, not even her best friend, but they found out. Everyone pretty much knew about Michael Casper. So Michael Casper and his friend Michael Hakes had drinks with Michele at Lefty's after her shift around 9, and she leaves around 9:30.
And this is the evening of September 11th.
11th. They have spent some time talking about, what had happened in New York City that day, and, everybody's still in a little bit of shock. So, it's like we just had a couple of drinks and then we went our separate ways. Now, Michael Hakes, who is her boyfriend Michael Casper's friend, when police take a look at Michael Casper, Michael Hakes, and Brian Early, they find that Michael Hakes is a convicted rapist. And he has spent a decade in prison in Arizona.
Well, okay.
Now he's out. He did his time. He's on parole. And they can't find anything that connects him to Michele. Hakes, Casper, and Early all cooperated and took polygraphs. They were questioned numerous times. Their polygraphs all came back that they passed. Cal Harris took a polygraph, was fingerprinted, checked out everywhere, and he says his polygraph was inconclusive. The police say that's not true, that he failed his polygraph. They say that Cal is very calm and nonchalant about his wife's disappearance. A couple of weeks after she's disappeared, he is like, I'm having a yard sale. I'm going to sell all of her stuff.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Your
wife disappears. Granted, you're separated. Do you wait 2 weeks and then sell her shit? Because,
Yeah, that's just like screaming, I know she's not coming back.
Thank you. And that exact sentence came out of his mouth. He, after 3 weeks of Michele having been gone and disappeared, Cal strikes me as the kind of guy that can't be alone and maybe can't just be with one person and needs multiple people to make his ego feel better. He rekindles a relationship with an old girlfriend, and it's Michele's birthday. And she said, aren't you worried like she's going to show up or something? Because at that point they thought, oh, she just walked away from her life. And he goes, oh no, she's not coming back.
Great. So he's wooing somebody new at their house on Michele's birthday, and the new girlfriend says, "Well,
the new old girlfriend,
the
right.
rekindled girlfriend in the process of being kindled is asking, well, aren't you afraid she's going to come back? It's her birthday. I mean, she might decide to come back, see the kids." And you say, "Oh no, she's not coming back."
No, she's not coming back. Very definitively. According to the girlfriend, it was like he was just definitive about she wouldn't be showing up unexpectedly as he's entertaining as you say, the rekindled girl. And he asked the employees of his dealership to come and get her 2000 Ford Windstar out of the driveway and detail it. And it needs an oil change.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's just checking all the good boxes. I mean, he's just so unlikable. This is so unlikable.
Yeah, he might have been the most innocent guy in the world. This is the Scott Peterson effect, right?
Exactly.
It's like there's no jury in the world that if this ever gets in front of a jury that they're not going to convict him because he's such a dick.
He really is, and this is terrible. You don't want to judge someone on their looks, but he's tall and thin and balding, but has a lot of hair around the edges. He's like the more creepy version of the actor Tom Noonan.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like that.
Yeah, you guys should Google him if you haven't seen him. You'll recognize him right away.
Yeah, he was Francis Dollarhide in the original Manhunter, which was Silence of the Lambs prequel with Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter. So, yeah, Tom Noonan is an actor you would recognize as soon as you saw him, and he's really good at playing creepy. And Cal Harris is like the low-rent version of Tom Noonan. He just is. His eyes are dead. He has eyes like a snake. Doesn't mean he killed his wife. I'm not. Yeah. So in the meantime, he says, take this Windstar and have it detailed. There's absolutely zero activity on Michelle's cell phone, her bank accounts, her credit cards, nothing. If you were going to walk away from your life and you're getting $400 a week and you're working at Lefty's, you don't even have access. The money is frozen because you're in the middle of a divorce proceeding. So it's not like she could get a bunch of money out and start a new life. She would have to start a new life as a, homeless person. And
oh, no, so a rich guy was driving by and saw her in the driveway and just picked her up and say, hey, I'm rich. Why don't you come with me to
she is beautiful.
Points unknown. Let's go.
Yeah, and the Rolex box is empty. Maybe that's all she took. I'm going to take this Rolex I don't care about, and I'm going to go in a car with this man who's picking me up as I pull into the end of my driveway. So there's no activity on anything involving Michele. And her husband, Cal, is like, it's probably one of those guys she dated. I don't know, what the deal is with that. But so he has this large garage sale, and Barbara Thayer is thinking, this is weird. And then her hairdresser comes forward and says she put her cell phone on speakerphone. And this was, I think, a week or two before she went missing. She was getting her hair done. And Cal said, you need to accept this settlement. You need to accept the $740,000 and the $80,000 a year. Just take it, or things are going to be uncomfortable for you. And the hairdresser is like, oh. And then he says under oath that he heard Cal Harris say, I will kill you and I will make sure you disappear.
This is the hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Right. In the meantime, police have been let into the home by Barbara Thayer, and they videotape her walking around pointing out things of interest. They find a few drops of blood in a doorway and a door jamb from the garage to the house. Now, Cal said this has been documented. Everything that happened, she documented with her divorce attorney. She cut her hand working on something in the garage, and this is where she walked into the house to bandage her hand. Could absolutely explain it. I will say there were some errors made here. Maybe, the detectives got tunnel vision. They even brought in, Dr. Henry Lee, who is pretty well known in the blood spatter world. And the blood stains that were on the kitchen and in the garage door, according to Dr. Lee, appeared to be fresh. And he said their size and shape were indicative of blunt force trauma. Now, Cal's attorney is like, this is bull, and there's no evidence at all that Michelle's even deceased. Well, right. because she's not been found. She's nowhere to be found. So, Dr. Lee is like, well, this looks pretty fresh, pretty new, and this looks like blood spatter from blunt force head trauma. So it takes 4 years. 4 years before the police can actually get enough together to charge him. They've considered him the prime suspect from day one, but in 2005, Cal is finally charged with murder. But I don't know if this man is the most unlucky man on earth or the luckiest man on earth. He's charged with murder, her murder. The prosecution theorizes he beat her to death in their home, somewhere between the garage and the kitchen, on the 12th. And a judge throws out the indictment in early 2007, saying that there's flaws in the grand jury proceedings. He is re-indicted on the murder of Michele a month later. Henry Lee says the bloodstains in the kitchen and the garage are, fresh and look like blunt force trauma. They say that the blood is tested and it is Michele's. Now, there is some sort of a debate whether it's definitively hers or a family member. Now, Cal has already said she cut her hand and walked into the kitchen to bandage her hand. So trying to say it's your kids or one of her family members, it just smacks of, I feel like his attorney, who probably was a very high-paid, high-powered attorney, is the kind of guy you want if you've ever been indicted for murder, because he brings up the bullshit I can't even...
Was that second indictment also thrown out?
Well, he's convicted of second-degree murder in June of 2007. Okay. In November of 2007, a judge overturns the conviction and orders another trial.
Okay. God.
The judge bases his decision on the testimony of a surprise witness who came forward after Cal's conviction and claimed he saw Michele alive hours after, Cal supposedly killed her, and she was standing at the foot of her driveway and arguing with a younger man. Now, this is a farmer who wore glasses, drove a pickup truck, had vision issues, and said, I drove by that morning, September 12th, and saw her outside of her minivan talking to a guy in a pickup truck, a younger guy in a pickup truck, and they were arguing.
So, and the judge overturned the conviction based on that.
Yes.
We've seen over the years now that we've been doing this, we've seen so many cases where there's been a conviction and post-conviction testimony has come up, and you can't overturn the conviction to save your life.
Right.
But this guy gets his, okay.
Uh-huh.
The justice, it really is true. If you have enough money to get a great attorney, you can,
wait.
Oh my God.
But wait, Producer Mark, there's more. Calvin Harris is retried in August of 2009. He is once again convicted of second-degree murder, and he's sentenced to 25 years to life. But in October of 2012, the conviction is overturned. On his third trial, in May of 2015, a jury is unable to reach a verdict, and the judge declares a mistrial.
Oh, I'm exhausted right now.
His fourth murder trial in the spring of 2016, he waives his right to a trial by jury, which is a smart thing because he's so unlikable.
Yep.
And he gets a trial by judge instead, and he's acquitted of all charges.
I guess there, I have to see the evidence, but maybe there wasn't enough evidence.
Well, I guess if you have what's it called, a bench trial, when you're judged by a judge instead of a jury.
The judge is just looking at the law. He's looking at whether,
and it would be like the Scott Peterson effect, like you said. Scott Peterson was convicted by a jury of his quote-unquote peers. He was convicted on one of Lacey's hairs that was found, and a shitload of circumstantial evidence, don't get me wrong, but one of Lacey's hairs found on his boat in the garage. Like she could not have shed that walking by.
He was convicted because he was a dick and the
Because
jury
he's a
didn't
dick.
like him.
You're right. That's the thing. He was, convicted because he was a dick and no one likes him. You're exactly right. So he, is found innocent of all charges. The 4 kids are behind him all the way. And that is what is so hurtful, is that these poor 4 kids, Michele would never have abandoned them. Now Cal thinks it was someone else who killed her, and he, hires a private investigator named David Beers. And it's not a private investigator to find his wife. It's a private investigator to find somebody else to blame.
The real killer, maybe?
Yes. Apparently OJ was... No, I'm kidding. So he hires David Beers, and David Beers works for him for quite a while and then decides, and I'm just going to call this a cash grab. There's nothing else I can do. He writes a book October of 2019, and David Beers' book is entitled Reign of Injustice. REIGN.
Yeah.
Reign of Injustice. It was released in December of 2019. And he's like, I don't even know how Cal Harris made it through that. I can't imagine what he had been feeling when his case is finally, he's found innocent or found not guilty by the judge. David Beers is like, his family is there and it feels like it's finally over. And you know what? This book I'm writing is going to be explosive. And we have tracked down a truck that belonged to one of the suspects. And in it was blood, a diamond earring that was similar to the earrings that Michele has worn in some photos.
Similar?
Yeah.
To that she wore in some photo.
Mm-hmm.
That's explosive, all right.
Very explosive.
Reminds me of something else that's explosive that I'm not going to mention.
Diarrhea?
Maybe.
So because Cal Harris, I believe, has an ego the size of Montana, he files a suit against Tioga County, also Barbara Thayer, his ex-babysitter / housekeeper.
Oh, for what? For slander?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
He said she is a willing and able participant who was just happy to join the ranks of law enforcement, pointing the finger at Calvin Harris. She had worked for the Harris family for a really long time. It's really sad. But this, his attorney is kind of a, I'm going to kick some ass and take some names kind of guy.
Oh, yeah. It probably is this the same attorney that represented him in the criminal action?
No. Different.
It's just
attorney.
another expensive attorney that can go out and make everybody's life miserable.
And he has the funds and the family money to pay for it. So this attorney says that the district attorney in 2005, when the first charges are filed against Calvin Harris, was married to Michele Harris's divorce attorney. He says that the Tioga County, the police, and Barbara Thayer fabricated evidence, falsified evidence, falsely arrested, and maliciously prosecuted Mr. Harris.
Mm-hmm.
He mentions quite liberally in his legal brief the 48 Hours episode called A Time to Kill. He mentions the lead investigator Lester. He mentions Barbara Thayer. He mentions the hairdresser, and that the hairdresser's story had changed, even though the hairdresser had said, well, no, this is what I heard. That's what I heard.
Right. Is he suing all these people?
He is.
He's suing the hairdresser.
Yes, he has a whole list of everyone is pretty much.
So he's naming all these people, and it's what a man.
Yeah, he's a charmer. He is a real charmer. The most recent update was December of 2019, and Harris has a statement. He said, "This is a huge case. We're talking 100,000 pages of documents because of my 4 trials and all the evidence and all the witnesses that go with it." Now, here's where he tries to show some humanity. I tried to find out the amount he was suing for, because to add a dollar amount, I guess you want to try and make someone pay and cause them pain, but it's just shitty. A rich guy suing,
all these regular folks who don't have any way to afford the legal fees.
Well, wait till you hear this. One thing Harris is unhappy about is that his lawsuit is going to come with a payoff from taxpayers' pockets and not from the people he alleges that are directly responsible. Even if there's a settlement, those directly responsible won't pay a dime. The money isn't going to come from the people responsible. It's all going to be paid for and by the taxpayers. I'm not happy about that, but that's just the way it is.
So he's a fighter for the taxpayer now. Yeah.
Right.
And he really wants to hurt those people.
Right.
Yeah.
He says, personally, it's been a very damaging situation as far as all the publicity for me and my kids. Our lives will never be the same. We lost a considerable amount of time together. And the civil lawsuit is the only way I could go while trying to be made whole. I'm going to say he's already a whole. He's already been made a whole. An asshole. And it's a terrible thing to say that. Someone who, may be completely innocent. Not really buying it, but, may be innocent. So if you know what happened to Michele Ann Harris, she's 5'2", 100 pounds, blonde hair, brown eyes, a tattoo on her ankle, and a mother of 4. And more cowbell.
If you'd like to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/just the Tipsters.